Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kindness Games. Today, I was having a conversation with my dear friend Suzanne about the Kindness Games. And so I said, hey, let's record, let's share why we're involved in this and how she's going to come on the journey now with us and why she decided to do that. So, Suzanne, talk a little bit about that and why you think this matters right now.
Hey, Kathleen. Thanks for having me. So this is going to be my first time participating in the kindness games, and it kind of just happened randomly. I actually saw that Kathleen was sharing the kindness games on LinkedIn, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool! I would love to be a part of that." But the funny thing is, I reached out to Kathleen for something else, and we ended up talking about a lot of things. We were catching up, and she just told me that, this, I think, based off of everything that you're sharing with me and everything that you're telling me and everything that you're feeling right now in your life, this could be a good option for you. So this is going to be my first time. So bear with me.
Yay! Lots of
I'm
grace here.
excited and nervous, but
It's
um,
okay. It's okay.
but
That's why we're here.
yeah. But more importantly, I think that the kindness games is so important right now, especially with everything that we're going through with the pandemic. Just so many people are facing so many different things, whether it's anxieties. Working from home has presented challenges. Some people are, taking care of their kids. Some
Yeah.
people are stuck in very tight spaces with a lot of people, um, and some people are alone. And I think that that is also a challenging thing. In my last conversation with Kathleen, we kind of talked about how, in some ways, obviously, the pandemic has had a lot of, horrible outcomes for many people.
Sure.
But we also talked about how, for some people, there's kind of a divide. There were some people who were struggling really hard for years before the pandemic. And for whatever reason, the pandemic was a space of healing and growth. And for others, maybe they were taking their life for granted. And it was kind of this, I don't want to say a slap in the face because that's too aggressive, but it
I
was,
say kind of a rebirthing, kind of
yes.
like a phoenix rising is what I was saying to Lee, one of the founders.
Yeah. So, and for others, it was kind of like, let me remind you of all of the things that you're taking for granted. Um, and so for me personally, it's been a great space of healing and growth. I think it was exactly what I needed to feel more in alignment with myself
Sure.
and to grow and to figure out, what's important to me. And through this journey, I've realized that the last few years I haven't been myself for a lot of different reasons that we don't need to get into this time. But I haven't really
We can have that on Conversations with Coach Kat. That'll be another show.
Oh yeah, we can do it there. But yeah, for the last few years, there's been a little bit of a disconnect because I've, been going through a lot of challenges, and through the pandemic and through this journey of healing, um, I don't know, I started kind of asking myself the tough questions, and I had a lot of time to myself to really ask myself if I was living authentically and who am I? Who am I and what am I?
Yeah, great
And
question. These are really good inside out questions. I know, and they're tough to answer.
and um and I realized I was not living, I was not living my truth. I was not being the person that I wanted to be, the person that I've been historically. And there were a lot of things that have happened in my life that, for whatever reason, they dimmed my light and made me skeptical about the world and about trusting people, um and just gave me a very negative, very pessimistic view. And it wasn't really, again, living my truth. My truth is that I love helping people. I really care about people. I want to participate in things that matter. um And I kept asking myself, was I doing that? And of course, to some extent in personal relationships, I was doing that a little bit,
Sure.
but I felt like it wasn't 100% there either, because I wasn't in a good place myself. So yeah, during the pandemic, I went through a rehabilitation.
Nice. We'll call that Suzanne 2.0.
Yeah. I started, I was always taking care of my health, but I started doing more of a holistic approach. So I started looking
Oh,
at,
great. I was going to ask you to share what you found was most helpful to shift, because since I've known you, since the very first day I met you, you have
here.
been such a love and light. And each time you'd come into any room, you'd fill it in such a positive light. So I'd love to hear how you're welcome. I just love to hear, how did you shift? Because I absolutely know what it feels like. My description of that is, I felt like I was a walking zombie on earth, kind of like this vessel of nothingness. And even Lindsay, our colleague from back then, she's like, oh yeah, you were a total vessel. I'm like, could you have told me that before I realized it? But no, this is our journey to figure out, how do we arrive where we are, and then what techniques did we put into play, to your point, to grow through the season. And I'd love to hear what you found was helpful. And I'm sure others watching this are going to say, oh yeah, in the pandemic, this and this happened. And to your point, here's how I celebrated and made change during the time. So what did you find was most helpful?
Okay, well, the first thing was, I think it's important when you're going through something to remove yourself from the environment that is triggering you to begin with. And I think that the pandemic really helped with that. Working from home and being at home, it's a sanctuary for me. It's a safe space.
Great.
Um, and because we weren't allowed to go out and go do anything really,
Yeah.
I
Lockdown
was
is what it was. Yeah.
kind of in my sanctuary for a little while. So that was the first thing, I think the first tip, but really looking at, first I'm going to talk a little bit about like physical health, and then I'll talk about the mental work,
Great.
because actually both of them go hand in hand. So a lot of these things are really basic, actually. And I was doing these things before, but not in the same way that I started doing it during the pandemic. But the first thing you have to look at is, let me explore my environment. Is my environment clean? Is my environment organized? All of those things actually have a psychological impact. Um, and I actually see it with myself. Like when I'm flustered, I see that all of my stuff is everywhere. But then I always organize it later, but I could tell. And even, other people who've been around me, they could tell, like, oh, like she's really going through it, because I'm seeing like things in places that they shouldn't be. And that's not
Yeah.
normal for her. So I would say, looking at your environment, looking to see if, your space is clean. That's one important thing. Another thing is, um, if you are suffering with anxiety or depression, which I have on and off, and I will say that during the pandemic, especially in the beginning, I was suffering with it a lot. I think it's important to put that energy somewhere. And for me, that's physical activity. So whether that's going for walks, doing circuit trainings, going to the gym, doing Pilates, doing yoga, whatever physical activity that you have that suits you, do it. Because when you exercise, you release dopamine, and dopamine makes you feel good and
Sure.
gives you energy. The other things I examined, and this is going to be really an interesting point, is a lot of people have micronutrient deficiencies that actually impact their mental health. For example, vitamin D. Vitamin D is probably the number one supplement that everyone should be taking, because it's connected to so many different things. It's connected to your mood. It's connected to your digestive tract. If you
Wow.
if you cut yourself, and you're vitamin D deficient, you might have trouble healing. The healing process might be slow. It's connected to your bones, your nails. There's like
So
so many
many
benefits.
benefits.
And also, there's so much research now that's showing that it actually, I have to send you this later, Kathleen, but I
Yeah.
don't want to talk too much about it because I'm still like, I don't have everything memorized, but those
It's
are the
okay.
general things that I know.
You're learning that these things worked for you. Well, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what sharing with others about what did work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So looking at those micronutrient deficiencies is really, really important, because it actually could be impacting your mental health. And so I, at some points or another, have been vitamin D deficient, and during those times, I've been in a irritated, crappy mood. My health is not in order. I don't feel good. I'm constantly fatigued. And those could be other nutrient deficiencies that you're having too. So I started being more intentional and being more consistent on my micronutrient
Mm.
intake. I started,
Kind of healing your body from the inside out, both
yeah,
physically and emotionally.
because this is the thing. This is my true belief. And yeah, one day I'll probably write a paper on this
I was going
somehow.
to say, this sounds like a book.
It is. I know that it's going to be something someday.
Great.
But yeah, I would say that, my philosophy is sometimes you could have deficiencies that impact your mental health. And so even if you're going to a therapist or even if you're taking medications, that actually might not be doing everything. So my philosophy is fix all of your physical health first, make sure that everything is on par there, and then start doing the work, the internal work, working on those traumas, working on those boundaries. So yeah, so micronutrient, going
Great.
back to the physical stuff, micronutrient intake is really important. And then also what you put in your body. So food, if you're going to eat like crap, you're going to feel like crap. That's really, it's just the truth, really. And I've personally gone through it, and I don't really eat fast food much anymore. And even now, when the occasional times I have fast food, I don't feel good. I feel sluggish. My stomach's hurting.
So eat more clean.
Eat more clean. Eat foods that give you good vitamins and minerals, and they're nutritious, and taste delicious. That's another tip.
So then you're going to come over and cook for all of us, in addition to Juliana, my cousin, who we will tag on this post, by the way.
Okay, the funny thing is I've actually worked with some of my friends on developing some better habits.
Awesome.
I have,
Partnering. So there's
yeah.
another tip, partnering.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And I actually have something going on potentially next week where I'm going to be helping out a friend also with, some nutrition stuff and how to make healthy foods that taste delicious. I think that's the most important thing. People don't want to eat healthy because they think it tastes like crap. And I'm like, doesn't, if you know how to cook.
If you don't know how to cook, I mean, I know how to cook. However, do I like to cook? Not so much. So, we have to YouTube it or get somebody to show us how. Yep.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
And then also, just staying on a consistent, sleeping schedule, making sure you're drinking enough waters.
Sure.
And once you have all of those things in check, you'll naturally, physically, you will feel better. You won't be fatigued. How could I think clearly or be introspective if I'm constantly fatigued? It's just not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to be working at my most optimal level, right?
Yeah. And that goes back to what we started talking about earlier today was, being authentic, not only being authentic with ourselves, but being authentic with those that are around us, and being kind and supportive, because we don't know what others are going through. And so I think this is a great segue to the kindness games and your very first post. We're so excited to have you on this journey, and I don't want you to give away all your tips and tricks on this first one. We're so grateful for our relationship and you coming on this journey with us. So I'm going to say a shout out to a leader who I admire such a great deal. And she's so young. I know she's going to watch this and say, wait a minute, I'm not that young, Kathleen. So that's Tina Lee. So I have watched Tina Lee grow so much over the past few years, and she's caring and courageous and continues to look at how can she be the best version of herself, because like we were talking earlier, the byproduct of that is then she can be of service to the community that she works in, which is learning and development. And we all know when you invest in your biggest asset, which are your employees, all the humans, we always talk about humans, then they go out into the world and serve your clients and add to a functioning society. So Tina Lee, big love, big shout out. Keep doing all of your good work. Really happy to hear you're back in the Inland Empire. So my challenge to you, Tina Lee, is come on this journey with Suzanne and I. And my other shout out is going to be to my cousin Juliana, our fitness expert. Come on, Juliana, it's time to come on this journey. You can see Suzanne's here. So add to the kindness games by coming on this journey with us. So Suzanne, who would you like to give a shout out to today? Somebody that's impacted your life and the community they serve.
I would like to give a shout out to Margot Cash. Margot is just an amazing human being. She's so empathetic, so kind, so hardworking. I admire her so much. She's a colleague of mine, so I get to see a lot of the work that she does, and she just inspires me. And I'm just in awe of everything that she does and her dedication and her work ethic. And I just think she's an incredibly strong person. And I can't wait for what's to come and where she's going to go in her journey. And I think, and I'm also inviting her to do the kindness games because I think that she would really enjoy it. So
that's a great shout out. And you just shouted out that entire department. So imagine if your department and then the university you work at, what if they adopted the kindness games? Challenge Claremont Graduate University. And with that, Suzanne and Kathleen, have a great day, everybody. Spread kindness around the globe.